Okay, hello everybody, and thank you very much for staying here. All right, this is a very exciting moment for me and a bit surreal because, first of all, never mind my gray hair, it's my first ever presentation at a conference. I'm a late starter. Besides, this is the first time I'm actually speaking to a living audience in about 2 years. Because you can imagine, in the last 2 years, I've been mostly involved in materials writing, and I stopped teaching a while ago. I had been teaching a lot before that. I got a master's degree from Manchester University in teaching English as a second language. And but in the last 2 years, I've moved to materials writing, working for a large publisher, and as well for some courses, online courses, writing grammar courses as well. And grammar, in particular, has been my pet subject for many, many years. And something that I've been consulting people about, including native speakers who've been asking me about English grammar. As you can see, grammar covered, grammar learned. Does this make sense to you? When we cover something, we're supposed to have learned it. Our students are supposed to have learned it. Does it really happen? We'll move to that. Okay, first of all, my general question to everybody. What's your first association with the word grammar? When you hear grammar, you shout out. Exercise is boring, or some kind of, all right. I thought somebody was, grammar present perfect. Why? I have no idea. There are so many exciting structures in English, but okay, a number of students were asked the same question, you see, the most popular answers, boring, challenging, difficult, well, it's complicated, and some find it interesting, but it's kind of less conspicuous, and now just brain raping, and something like that. Okay, so generally, not a very positive, not a very exciting picture. Why is that? Does it have to be that way? Okay. First of all, maybe it means that we don't really need to learn grammar. Well, let's learn vocabulary, learn to speak, improvise, and then grammar will take care of itself. Well, some truisms, if you forgive me. I believe that despite what a very much respected Hugh Deller says, that lexis is more important than grammar, I had a little discussion with him on that, but of course he's very much a respected scholar. But I believe they're equally important. It's like bricks and concrete in building a house. Concrete is obviously lexis, and grammar is what keeps it together.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
Then question is, do we learn grammar through rules or through lots of examples? So how do we learn grammar? Do we really need to focus on forms? Maybe just, listen a lot, read a lot, and it'll just take care of itself. Well, it appears that focus on forms is still important. So we do need to learn present perfect after all, but the question is how we learn it. In our mind, as the cognitive science tells us, there are two types of learning, rule-based learning and example-based learning, and they complement each other, they go together. So and at the same time, we reproduce what we've heard before, kind of unconsciously, the examples, chunks of language, but at the same time, sometimes we analyze, we form, make a sentence from based on what we know about grammar. Okay, so to quote this cognitive scientist Peter Skian, two systems coexist: the rule-based analytic on the one hand, and the formulaic example-based on the other. It also appears that language users can move between these systems, do it quite naturally, and this goes for other skills as well. My wife and I, this is us now. My wife and I used to take some, used to, we stopped about a few months ago, take some tango classes. And even though we didn't get too far in our skills, but we found it really helpful to know the rules, to do how to do it, to kind of have clear instructions how it works, and at the same time to imitate to see samples, to see examples of perfect dancing and try to perform the same way. So it goes for other skills, not just language. And in fact, okay, anyway. So problems with teaching grammar. And this relates to grammar covered, grammar learned. So even when a grammatical structure form has been covered in a course, right? We've done it, we've covered it, we've dealt with it. What may happen? Students may still not understand it properly, you know very well. You know, practicing teachers, they don't understand it properly. They don't use it when we want them to use it in production. Okay, here's, use this. I'm not going to say present perfect. Past perfect continuous, okay. Yeah, no, they'll use another. They'll probably substitute it with a low-level structure that they know, they're confident about. Why the hell should we use this? If, there's simple grammar when we can get along and feel confident. Or they use it incorrectly, basically. They failed to grasp the meaning, they failed to grasp the form. Okay, why? Why does that happen? Any ideas, just in a random idea, why does this happen? Well, lack of practice, okay. They don't know the reason why they should use it. They can get away with much simpler language and they communicate. Why should they use it? Even though, you know, there must be a reason why they should use it. Pardon? Context, exactly. They haven't seen it in all right, some very good points here. Now, I'm going to actually look at this issue from the point of view of materials development, materials that we use, which seems to be in line with the general theme of this conference, as I understood it. And the first, a very telling quotation is from Mr. Scott Thornberry, and it also sheds some light on the reason why we don't learn all the grammar we have covered. Grammar is not just transmission of facts, it's a gaining of skill. What we teach, they don't automatically learn. I can teach you the subjunctive in Spanish, its forms and rules of use, and I can do it with flair, humor, brilliance, and insight. But there's no guarantee that you're going to learn it. You may remember me, the circumstances of the lesson, and some facts about the subjunctive itself. But placed in a situation of real language use, can you access the subjunctive? Unlikely. And here we go. Talk about materials, how grammar is frequently taught in course books. Now, there are different course books. There are better course books, worse course books. Well, it depends on how they meet your needs. But and the authors are not necessarily to blame for some deficiency, because I know what restrictions the publishers impose on you. Or the publishers believe what the learners need, and they tell the author to do it only this way, to do it, to follow a very strict pattern. But anyway, I'm going to show you some pages of a course book, and you're going to tell me, can you guess what structure is going to be presented next? Maybe some of you are familiar with this course book. Don't spoil it, okay? Don't. If you know the answer, just give it to yourself, right? If you don't know the course book, just try to guess what this unit is leading towards, what grammar will be next. And now I thought I could enlarge it with this mouse. Yeah, if you can see, can I have the mouse? Yeah, if you probably can't see where else. I'm going to show you these pages, and it's not going to work here. Okay, oh, sorry. On my computer, I was able to right-click the mouse and make any part of this larger. I was able to move. But anyway, if you can read any of the text. Okay, no, it's hard to read. Oh. How did you do that? Maybe it was the wrong mouse that I had. Okay, so we kind of, okay, so this is a text in the unit, the first text. The unit is called A Brighter Future. That's the name of the unit, and you'll see what the text is about. What structure would be taught next? That's first page, kind of skim or scan, whatever you. Somebody couldn't you enlarge this as well, please? No, I'm deliberately moving on. Yeah, the first text, could you enlarge that, please? Right-click and make it bigger. Oh, yeah, oh, good. Any clue, with the general context, what it's about? Used to and could, well, yeah, just say what you think. Because these 3 pages, then there'll be a grammatical structure that's supposed to follow this. Huh? So lots of ideas. You passive could, so as yet there's no clear sense of what they're going to teach in terms of grammar in this unit, right? Can you move on, please? Oh, sorry, I could do it. And recent inventions, how they've helped the world. Okay, in the last page. So much with the input that, all right, and there's some exercises on those texts. So, anybody can guess? Nobody has named the structure yet. It's not but simple. Speculating about the future. That's maybe the closest to. That's close. All right. Here's the answer. And I'm supposed to. Yeah. Oh. Okay. The second conditional. Right. Nobody named the second conditional. And here's one sentence. The only sentence that number 1 in the second exercise. The only sentence that was somewhere in the text there. If you had and this is there's kind of weird examples here. I didn't have much sure I'd chase it, but anyway. That's probably, I couldn't figure out what story it relates to, probably the pictures. But anyhow, anything that has preceded this particular page doesn't seem to have provided any meaningful context for the introduction of the second conditional. So there's probably it's just that the author has to introduce a grammatical structure in each unit. And so probably they has to somehow introduce second conditional. So there are the texts, and there's the grammar. And they are not connected. They don't follow one from the other. And then immediately there's a controlled practice. There's free practice. Oh, not free, kind of semi-control. Yeah, well, I was 20, I would. And somehow you're supposed to be motivated and be prepared to use this grammar in your communication. So, and I've already asked this question. I should have clicked earlier. Why the second conditional, right? Why the second conditional? And then this leads us to more general points about how grammar is frequently taught in course books and the problems that are connected with that. Okay. So here's the way. Here's the main problems that I can see with the way grammar is taught and generally taught in course books. It's kind of imposed on the learner. We want you to learn it because you have to learn it, right? Not because you feel that you really need it, because it's grammar. We have to cover it. And there's minimal exposure. So 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 examples of this grammar in a text, not necessarily where it's really essential. Some examples just because they have to be there, and then you're supposed to use it yourself. You don't get the feel of this grammar. Too much chopping, maybe this doesn't go for this particular example, but sometimes the chopping, it's like the present perfect. Okay, I'll use this example. Present perfect is used first, to talk about the action at unspecified time in the past. Second, to talk about the result. Third, to talk about experience. Basically, it's all about the same thing, yeah? It's all about by now, okay? It's all about, so there's one concept, so essential meaning. But they are taught as disconnected functions, and students are sometimes confused. Oh, I have to learn so much. This structure is so complex. There's 5 different usages. It's so different. Early spoon feeding of the rule. So in this case, well, in some course books, yeah, you ask leading questions, and you kind of have to deduct to work out what the structure means. But usually it still happens too early. So basically, they give you the rule. You don't have the time to think, really, to analyze how this grammar is used. Not always engaging a personalized context. Learners can't relate to the grammar. No emotional hooks, and that's an important point because there's a research that shows that it's important. It increases the chances of students memorizing something when they have some emotional connection to that. So if it's some context that it doesn't relate to them, and they don't feel anything about, it's probably not going to be remembered. And even the grammar that was taught in this context is not going to be remembered so well. And minimal recycling is a very important point. Minimal recycling, so it's just It was here in the unit, next time it's in the final test, and that's it, and you've learned it, okay? There'll be no other unit on the same grammatical structure.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
How to help learners remember and use the grammar taught. And here's what I think, and I've used it in some materials that I've written, and these concepts, the concepts of how to introduce grammatical structures in a more meaningful way, in a kind of meaning-driven way, as I say. So the first general point, it should be clear to students why they need the grammar, what the communicative value is. It's kind of a general philosophical point. It should make sense, yeah, why it is taught here and now. Then this meaning-driven approach. So you start with a context that shows what I call the grammar personality. So it's kind of get to know it, and with a context that really shows its essential meaning, not many distinct meanings. So, for example, I'll have some examples for you here. Let's see, and you will tell me what you think. The second conditional. What would be, that was what I would call a weak presentation, a weak input, what I showed you in terms of preparing to understand second conditional. What could be the strong input? Essential meaning. What's the essential meaning of the second conditional, and what could the input be about? What's the essential meaning of the second conditional? Okay, that's the first word, yeah, unreal. Sometimes students can't relate to what's unreal. Okay, yeah, speculation, right? So second conditional is about, okay, and what could input be about then? For example, what kind of text could be used to prepare students for a second conditional? What could it be about? Dreams, yeah? Dreams. Everybody has dreams, emotional, personal. So about dreams. So it's imagining, dreaming really. How could it be if, what if, and then I would. Oh, wow, it could be so. So, and the text could be about a dreamer. And here's where I think fiction works, some piece of fiction, some introducing a character the students can relate to. So somebody out of touch with reality, for example, somebody dreaming, if I could, I would, oh wow, if life were different, I might, things like that. Okay, the past perfect. The second conditional is about, okay, it's about making some, it's about making what's it called, contingency plans for the future, right? If this happens, this is real, this is not about dreaming. The first conditional is about some certain future situation that you have in mind, and you're making contingency plans. What if this happens, all right, how I can prevent something that may happen in the future. Second conditional is really like up there in the clouds. So, well, what we understand as hypothetical, yes, but students don't always relate to the word hypothetical. Okay, past perfect. Well, yeah, but memories could be past simple. Wait, I remember something finished. Yeah, and what could the input be about? Okay, so we got even earlier past, even before, even earlier, and the input could be about, for example, as an example, a story of somebody is recalling something. Maybe a memory loss, just as a random idea, yeah? Somebody is trying to remember what happened before then. So they did this we are telling a story in the past about somebody trying to remember what happened even earlier past. That could be the strong context for introducing past perfect modals. May, might, could. Speak louder, please. Okay, anyway, possibility. possibility guessing. What could this be? So something is happening, some unexplained events, a detective story, for example, something supernatural that we don't know the answer for. So this context would be kind of strong for students to grasp the second conditional. Modals could. Something is happening that we don't have an explanation for. I clicked it earlier. Okay, anyway. Passive voice. All right, it's a bit trickier. Yes, let's focus on action, it's called hiding the doer. Yeah, hiding the doer, and this could be a report about a disaster, so we don't know who did. Doesn't matter who did it. A crime happened, and we don't know again who did it. So when we look for materials that we use with our students, it's a good idea to see how grammar is presented, whether grammar is presented in this kind of strong, through strong input, which really gets across the essential meaning of this grammar, or whether it's just there because it has to be there. Okay, we're going back there. And the next point is grammar-rich input. So not just a few examples, not one or two examples. Really saturate your text materials that you may prepare these materials yourself, right? Providing a lot of examples of the target grammar. So students really get the sense of it, get the feel of it. Then, as I said, emotional hooks, personalized and engaging input. And what happened now? Oh, there we go. Then, inductive learning. Okay, discovery learning. That's what I said. You give the answer too early. Let the students work out. Let students figure out what it is. Ask them leading questions, but don't throw them in at the deep end. Don't tell them, okay, here's the text. Now you tell me what this means, right? Because they'll be absolutely disoriented and they won't tell you. So ask leading questions by drawing attention to some features of that grammar that really, so they can work out what it means. And that's called scaffolding, right? And then enhanced input. What is enhanced input? What do you think? Have you heard of this term? Well, lots that relates to the third point, grammar-rich input, yeah? Enhanced input, and this, yeah, sort of right, thank you very much. That's kind of debatable because there's research that both proves that it's helpful and the research that proves that it's not helpful, but I've used it and I found it helpful, actually. Oh, have a look at this. Example of enhanced input. This is from a text for adult learners that I've written. I have a question for you. What do you think the meaning of red and yellow is here? But it's also not only have to, but they also need to. In the so they're all modals of obligation. That's correct. But what's the difference between yellow and red here? What do you think? It's meaning based. Pardon me? No, it's not form related. It's meaning related. So meaning related. So yellow, it's all about what? Say it again. And that's what color? Have to. Okay. So you can always sort of boil it down to a very simple thing, right? Don't overcomplicate it, because yellow is about, red is about no choice. It's all about no choice. That's simple. That's a simple idea. That's essential meaning of modals like have to, have got to, must. Oh, sorry, must, not must, of course. Have to, have got to, need to, right? It's no choice. I've got to do it. I have to do it. The main idea is I have no choice but to do it. On the other hand, yellow here is, it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea, okay? So the should, must, I think it's a good idea. Must is strong. I think it's very important, maybe. I think it's a good idea. Red is all about having no choice. So we've got the essential meaning highlighted here, the color coding used. But this could be probably used at the first stage, at the early stage of presenting the structure, because it will be irritating afterwards. You don't always need to use, only at the beginning to direct students' attention to this piece of grammar. And a couple more points. Lots of opportunities to use the grammar discussing what students care about. And this is, again, they have to relate to it on a personal level. They, practice in contexts that require the grammar, which is really a bit, a bit hard, because to think of a context that requires the grammar 100%, yes? So you can always replace it. But think of a context that is strong enough, that is, one in which this grammar will be naturally used. And written practice is a must, okay? Whether synchronous or asynchronous, because written practice, you have time to stop and think, and you have to really time to analyze and to really, it increases the chance of you actually using this grammar if you do it in writing first, and then it will come out in speaking probably more naturally. Okay, and the last point is one very short word, but it's a very important word, is recycle. Yeah, recycle, because one lesson, one unit is never enough. And recycling, that doesn't only go for the practice, it goes for the input. Recycle the input as well. Show, don't introduce a structure in one single short presentation and then get them to use it. Introduce it again, all right. Provide some more grammar-rich input in another class. Here are some quotes. Okay. A few apt quotes that kind of prove some of the points I have mentioned. On meaning-driven teaching of grammar, teaching language must be in the service of meaning-making derived bottom-up from exposure to constructions and not driven top-down by a set of rules to follow. Okay, again, we're talking about, okay. On noticing, yes, it's about this inductive learning. And you know who's the father of the noticing hypothesis? Mr. Schmidt. And he proposed that we only really learn things that we consciously think about. We apply some effort noticing them, only then do we learn them. So he said, evidence continues to accumulate that noticing has a strong impact on second and foreign language learning. And there's a fresh paper that says, important of making noticing happen in the language classroom is crucial to the role of the language teacher so as to facilitate learning. Okay, and talking about recycling, research shows, I think it's very important, that it's very rare for learners to be exposed to a new form and within the space of a single lesson to incorporate it into their spontaneous language production, which we sometimes expect them to do. In the same lesson, we've introduced it, and we expect them to incorporate it into their speech, which is just a myth. So we need to. Second conditional. If this were possible, yeah, life would be much easier, right, the second conditional. But unfortunately, it takes longer. So we talk about spaced learning, or spaced learning and distributed learning. You can't, even as you provide this rich input, you can't expect students to produce grammar just immediately, right? You're gonna do it again and again, and only after a number of lessons will they there'll be a chance that they'll actually be using it spontaneously. Not today. Don't get angry with them if they don't do it too quickly. And this leads us to the final, I find it very interesting, concept that was brought up by Mr. R.A. Claus a long time ago, about in the 60s or somewhere. And the idea of grammar as fact versus grammar as choice. So what is grammar as fact? We very often think of grammar as fact. Yes, there's rules that you have to learn and to operate such concepts as that's how it is, you must, you can't, this is right, this is wrong, this is an error, this is correct. Yes, you're right, no, you're wrong. So this is, yeah, grammar is, there's some of that in grammar. So for example, the past simple form is ed, that's a fact. Yeah, it's used about events at a single time in the past, that's a fact. But there's another grammar is choice. And oops. And when a lot of the grammar that we use is actually our choice. It's not something that we must say in this particular context, a single structure that we must use in this particular context. It may depend on what we mean. Could be better this way, could be better that way, could be clear or unclear. So we rephrase it because it's unclear. For example, I can say I live in Perm. I'm living in Perm. I have a choice, right? For example, I don't have a choice because I probably say I live in Perm. That's permanent, yes? But in other situations, I live in Brighton. I'm living in Brighton. Both are correct. And it's up to the learner to choose because they have this understanding of the permanence and understanding of temporariness. So they understand this essential meaning, they'll make this choice.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
And I think the idea that grammar is choice is a very important idea to get across to our students because it's kind of liberating. Yeah, choice is freedom. So learning grammar, it doesn't only help them answer, get grades or pass exams, or just find a way to say it correctly. Yeah, it gives them choice to express themselves better, to express themselves more accurately in the language, and they get the freedom really to speak as precisely as they want. And it's important, I think, to cultivate this attitude in the students that grammar is choice. It's not just right or wrong, it's not just fact. Okay, this is about all that I wanted to say today, and I've been a bit nervous, so I may have not formulated everything perfectly, but you have a couple of minutes to ask me any questions. Anything is unclear, you have doubts about anything you think doesn't make sense, or please go ahead, yes.
Just one, could you share some practical tips? You said we need to have lots of input, we need to have lots of context. Where do I get these inputs? Where, especially on site, when a student has used some construction not correctly, right here, we're somewhere at a different construction, which I need to teach him today, but here it is, the last one. And this on site, I need to deal with it. How do I do it?
No, you mean how do
I deal with this personalized or lots of input on site?
Okay, like on the spot when you're teaching, right? Well, because I'm talking about planning materials, basically from the point of view of planning materials and preparing materials that will help you achieve your goals. On the spot, well, of course you can't. If somebody makes a mistake, you correct the mistake. So it's no question about that. You
expose correctional mistakes that I go with firstly, for example. But okay, okay, then another, maybe a little bit different question. How do I get all this input? There's not enough input in textbooks, okay. There's no personalized input in the textbook because I have a different...
That's a very good question. Yeah, of course. First of all, choose between books. You pick the book that provides more of this. I'm not saying that all the books are bad. Okay, choose the books that are more provide more saturated, more richer input, more meaningful input. Secondly, you can prepare these materials. Well, you prepare materials for your lessons. You can write a text. It's just one text, which is kind of filled with this target grammar. Maybe sometimes to the as much as it's natural, maybe sometimes beyond that. So you're kind of playing with this structure, yes, playing with the structure. And the text you can write the text. Your colleagues can write. You have to have this database of such texts for your institution. You can have students write, the stronger students, more advanced students write some input. So you can just accumulate it, yes, and use it over time.
So what would you recommend? According to this, according to the choice, according to the source, grammar is a choice. So what would you recommend?
Well, it's a good question. Yeah, I'm not very qualified to talk about young learners because I've been teaching mostly. Yeah, well, Hugh Deller's books are outcomes, obviously.
I mean, course books, I mean, students' books, not just for learning purposes, but just students with their voice would like. What would you recommend?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I've been using my own materials lately. It's in fact I've written a book that is yet to be published and it's not yet published. But basically, you can analyze the book that you take from the point of view of whether it meets this criteria, how it meets this criteria, right? Because you know, and then make your decisions whether to use it or not. But sometimes it's not your decision. I understand you. Sometimes you're forced to use certain books, but at least think about it in this way.